Hello vinyl community, it's George Allen back again with more stories of LPs and CDs. Continuing on where I left off back in 1967. Now I'm going to be talking about 68 and 69. But don't worry, I'm not going to go year by year, or I'd be ended up making like 50, 60 videos to get up to where we are now. And I will be talking about new music. In fact, I got a box I've been waiting for from Blue Note, and unfortunately some of the stuff I ordered ended up on back order. But I got some new stuff coming too. So, I like using that word, so. I'm not Port Oriental or anything, I just like accentuating stuff like that. Maybe I can edit that out of here. I don't know if I can edit with this. I got to learn how to do that. But anyhow, back to 68, 69. And high school. 68, 69 anyhow was big years for music. And a friend of mine had a brother in college, and he came home one weekend and said, I heard a great album by a band who's just released their second recording, an English band who became popular for a song called A Whiter Shade of Pale, but the second album is very different than some of the stuff on their first album. And I said, Whiter Shade of Pale, I said, that sounds familiar. He's telling me, yeah, it was a big hit a few years back. I said, I think I remember that. He says, well, you got to go out and get their new album called Shine On Brightly. So I went out and I got Shine On Brightly. And boy, I fell in love with this album. He said the second side has only 2 songs on it. I said, 2 songs? And that was kind of unheard of, although it became kind of a regular thing with some other bands, you know, very long songs. And of course, as you know, Cream came along with their long jams, and then as Grateful Dead came along with their long jams, it became a very popular thing. But anyhow, Procol Harum. Gary Brooker, Keith Reed wrote most of the songs. A lot of input from other members. They had some very talented musicians. Matthew Fisher on organ, Robin Trower on guitar, very talented drummer, B.J. Wilson, Barry James Wilson. Matthew Fisher and B.J. Wilson ended up doing a lot of session work. Great. I really admired, being a drummer myself, I very much admired B.J. Wilson's drumming. Matthew Fisher did a lot of producing after this. But Gary Brooker, Keith Reed, I loved Keith Reed's lyrics. Fascinating. Gary Brooker became the main staple backbone of the band. For their albums after that, I think right now they're up to, I think, 14 studio albums. A lot of people don't realize that. I have a few t-shirts from going to their concerts. I wear them around. In fact, the previous video I did, video number 2, I had it under the other shirt I had on from the 2012 concert when they were touring the U.S. with Yes. I wear it and people go, Procol Harum? I says, yeah, they still around? I says, they certainly are. But anyhow, great album. One after this, Salty Dog, it's a very good album. Broken Barricades, very different, but a great album. It kills me, these record reviewers say, oh, pick up a Procol Harum album and all you'll hear is Whiter Shade of Pale rehashed. Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. But that's, you know, as I mentioned in my first video, music, like other things in life, can be very subjective. To each his own, and I really like Prog a lot. So that's one of the first things. 68, 69. So I come home from work one day. We're going to jump the track a little bit. Switch from prog rock, one of the first prog rock bands. And there's a show on TV. I had to work when I was in high school. My folks said, hey, you know, we don't mind helping to pay for college, but you got to work and pay for some yourself. I come home from work and there's this show on TV. I can't remember the name of it, but they were, every Friday night they were showing different musical groups. And I happened to be in New York at a club. And I thought, man, these guys are good. So find out at the end of it, it's called The Blues Project. So I go, I get this album, The Blues Project Projections. What a great group of musicians. And of course, some outstanding guys, one in which I followed his career, Al Cooper. Al Cooper, of course, involved with, I don't know how many recordings, how many groups he produced, how many songs he's written in his life. Very talented man. And I got his other records. I got his I Stand Alone, his first solo album. Flute thing on here, terrific song. I Can't Keep From Crying, a traditional song that he does on here. Then of course, this really started getting me into the blues. So I had Procol Harum, got me into the prog rock. This started getting me into the blues. And I happened to be able to pick up, because of this, listening to these guys, this album. More Real Folk Blues with Muddy Waters. And from my record buying time, starting back then, in 67, 68, 69, this is one record that I'm so glad that I've held on to. This was released in March of 1967. How I ended up buying it back then, because of them seeing it, snatching it up, and holding on to it, I'll never know. But this is a true treasure. Sad Letter, Whiskey Blues, Kind-Hearted Woman. Great album. I have one or two Canned Heat albums back from their early days with Al Wilson. Oh man, Blind Al Wilson. What a terrific bluesman. But I got this. I got some older stuff too, blues stuff. Early Paul Butterfield. But this is really, because I watched on TV of all things, one night coming home, seeing Blues Project, got me hooked on the blues. And then this is what's funny. In 69, 70, 71, almost every time I'd go to a concert, who would be there with him? John Mayall. I think he started living in the U.S. just so he could play along with some of these other groups. First time I saw Emerson, Lake and Palmer, who's with him? John Mayall. It's like every time I went to a concert, who's there with him? John Mayall. And I like John Mayall. I have a few of his albums, and it was decent stuff. But Muddy Waters, I'll tell you, some of these old-time guys, it's really stuff that gets you moving. And I love the blues. So that's it for this episode. Although I want to mention one thing. Occasionally I'm going to bring up a book or two, well, one book at a time. And because I think they're important, with winter coming on and stuff, maybe you might want to read some stuff, either a book or an online blog that relates to audio and records, albums, things that are important to the vinyl community, and maybe to well, you know what, stuff that's audiophile stuff is important to the vinyl community, because you have to have decent equipment to listen to our records on. And if you don't get the full benefit of them. And the records don't last long if you don't have good equipment to play them on. You can't appreciate them as much. A lot of hard work goes into some of these. So those are some of the things I'm going to bring up too when the videos come up. I appreciate those that have already listened and subscribed to my channel. Thank people that have gone ahead and taken the time to watch them. And we'll see you next time around. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep the records spinning, as Richard Riley always says. Take care.